There is a quiet mismatch in how many men interpret tattoos. They see art, rebellion, personality, but beneath the surface of ink and style, there are patterns, psychological tendencies, life stories, and behavioral signals that research and observation sometimes link with certain relationship risks. Correlation is not condemnation. Ink is not a sentence. Yet a man who seeks long-term stability, emotional clarity, and peace must read signals honestly, with nuance and compassion. At Stoic Power Codes, we do not moralize, we analyze. We translate patterns into practical, principled action. In this video, I will explain 6 risks of dating a woman with tattoos, each one deeply, carefully, and without drama. I will show you what the empirical patterns suggest, why those patterns may arise, and, more importantly, how a Stoic man responds, with self-mastery, boundaries, and wisdom. I will open with the most powerful risk, the one too many men miss. And I will promise this: stay to the end, because the final insight reframes everything and will tell you precisely how to act with integrity if you choose to pursue the relationship. One quick principle before we begin: correlations do not equal inevitabilities. A tattoo is never a verdict, it is information. Use it like you would any other data point, to inform your judgment, not to replace it. Now let us begin. 1. Impulsivity and emotional reactivity. Most men notice tattoos first as aesthetics. Few notice the behavioral patterns that sometimes accompany them. Greater impulsivity, higher sensation-seeking, and more intense emotional swings. Numerous psychological studies and surveys recognizing differences across cultures and samples have linked body modification with higher scores on impulsivity, novelty-seeking, and certain risk-taking measures. That does not make every tattooed woman impulsive. It simply means that, statistically, the probability of encountering impulsive behaviors rises. Why might this pattern exist? For many people, tattoos mark experiences, transformations, or statements taken on in moments of emotional intensity. A tattoo often memorializes a moment when control was loosened and feeling drove action. When that history is present, the nervous system can remain primed for high arousal states. Emotionally intense moments become familiar. Doing the unexpected becomes a way of feeling alive. In a relationship, impulsivity looks like rapid decisions without consequence waiting, sudden weekend trips, financial spontaneity, abrupt ends to commitments, or impulsive reactions during conflict. On a micro level, it appears as candor without calibration, sharp remarks spoken in the heat of feeling, then regretted. On a macro level, it can produce instability, abrupt exits, rapid emotional fluctuations, or choices that shop the relationship for novelty rather than nurture stability. How a Stoic man interprets and responds: observe first. Don't label. Track patterns across time. One impulsive decision is not a pattern, 10 are. Anchor your own rationality. When surprise or drama erupts, keep your breath, your boundaries, and your framework. Stoicism teaches you to separate impression from action. Feel the impression, choose your response, clarify limits gently. When decisions affect both our lives, I need a conversation first. Boundaries reduce the chance you will be dragged into reaction. Value growth. If the behavior is rooted in unresolved trauma or arousal seeking, ask whether she is aware and willing to work on it. A mature partner can learn greater regulation. A partner who resists actual growth will continue to destabilize. 2. Validation seeking and external identity. Tattoos are statements, symbols chosen to broadcast identity, history, or membership. For many, that broadcast is empowering. For some, however, tattoos function as a form of external identity, a visible way to hold or reclaim a self when the internal narrative feels inconsistent. Psychologists note that individuals with pronounced external styling can display higher needs for recognition or validation. The tattoo becomes a shorthand for being seen. In relationships, this can manifest as attention dependency. Not every woman with tattoos seeks validation. Many are perfectly self-contained. But a pattern to notice: if her self-worth is consistently tethered to external approval, likes, compliments, admirers' emotional stability depends on constant affirmation from outside sources. Such dependence introduces friction. She may test, provoke, or seek novelty to feel alive. She may measure her worth through others' gaze. Why this matters? The emotional economy in a relationship is fragile. If a partner's identity is externally dependent, your role easily becomes feeder of validation, a role that breeds resentment and imbalance. External identity can shift rapidly. When attention subsides, insecurities surface. You could find yourself pressured to continually provide reassurance or to tolerate public displays, meant primarily to elicit notice. Stoic response and strategy: lead with curiosity and calm. Ask, but do not pry. What does that image mean to you? Invites real explanation rather than spectator admiration. Encourage internal work. Support practices that build internal validation: journaling, therapy, meaningful projects, competence-based achievements. Make your own attention conditional. Your time and praise are earned by consistent care and alignment, not by spectacle. If continual external seeking becomes a relationship dynamic, model a steadier method of worth, competence, contribution, and inner work. 3. Attachment to narrative and past trauma. Tattoo choices often encode narratives: names, dates, symbols of survival, or declarations of identity after rupture. Many people find tattoos part of their healing, a way to take ownership of pain. That is noble. Nonetheless, a tattoo can be a visible reminder that the person carries a complex emotional history, which may include unresolved trauma or identity wounds. Research in trauma-informed care suggests that some individuals use body modification as a reparative strategy. The skin tells a story of survival. That survival can coexist with resilience, and it often does. But when trauma remains unprocessed, it resurfaces in relationships as hypervigilance, fear of abandonment, or patterns of reenactment, repeating scenarios that echo past wounds. Consequences in romantic life. Reenactment leads to cycles: the same arguments, the same triggers, the same ruptures. Hypervigilance triggers mistrust, where trust would be appropriate, or it magnifies minor conflicts into existential threats. Emotional labor builds up on your side if you consistently act as co-therapist for unresolved trauma. Stoic guardrails and compassionate action. First, practice radical honesty with yourself about your emotional bandwidth. Stoicism does not require you to become other people's therapist. Encourage professional healing. If trauma narratives appear active, invite healing, therapy, EMDR, somatic work. Be supportive, but maintain your boundaries. Mirror non-reactive calm. Trauma-born reactivity often diminishes in the presence of steady, non-catastrophic responses. Your calm is not a cure, but it is regulatory. Decide what level of emotional caretaking you can sustainably offer. Love is not a contract to repair another's unresolved past indefinitely. 4. Elevated sexual novelty seeking and relationship instability. Multiple surveys and behavioral studies have shown correlations between certain body modifications and higher scores on measures of sexual openness or novelty seeking. Again, correlation is not destiny. Many tattooed women have stable, enduring sexual values and prefer monogamy. Still, statistically increased novelty seeking can correlate with higher rates of relationship friction when one partner prefers steady, low arousal investment and the other seeks frequent, intensifying experiences. Manifestations: higher appetite for variety in sexual expression or partners. Periodic boredom with routine sexual scripts, leading to experimentation or alternating cycles of high-intensity pursuit and disengagement. Emotional cycles that mirror sexual cycles. Thrill seeking outside the relationship triggers inner conflicts about attachment. Stoic guidance for a man who prioritizes stability. Clarify sexual values early. Clear dialogue about fidelity, boundaries, and expectations prevents later betrayal or disappointment. Choose alignment. If your libido and values are significantly mismatched, decline the role of fixer. Attraction cannot survive fundamental misalignment without mutual intentional negotiation. If you commit, invest in mutual discovery rather than unilateral concession. Build rituals of safety. Pre-agreed boundaries that allow both novelty and safety, where experimentation happens with explicit consent and mutual agreement rather than covert novelty seeking. 5. Reactance against authority and long-term structure. Tattoos often signify independence, non-conformity, or dissent. For many, this is a healthy expression of autonomy. For others, it can reflect a persistent reactance against external structure, difficulty accepting rules, authority, or predictable constraints. Psychologists term this psychological reactance, an aversive reaction to perceived threats to freedom. Within relationships, reactance can show up as difficulty with compromise, resistance to household routines, or rebelling against plans that require long-term discipline. It can also create friction when one partner seeks predictability, bills, plans, family responsibilities, and the other resents or resists institutional demands. How that looks: difficulty following shared plans or maintaining reliable commitments. Episodes of "I can't be tied down" rhetoric right when the relationship requires coordination, moving in, children, career compromises. Preference for immediate freedom over negotiated long-term strategy. Stoic strategy and pragmatic response distinguish values. Is freedom a central life value for her? That may not be a deal breaker, but it requires compatibility with your own tolerance for unpredictability. Negotiate roles deliberately. If long-term structure is essential, family, career coordination, make that explicit early. Watch whether she can meet those roles or adapt willingly. Use principle-based boundaries. If we share a household, we share responsibilities. If that is a problem, we discuss alternatives. Do not demand conformity, demand clarity and mutual respect. Evaluate adaptability over time. People can integrate structure voluntarily if they value the person enough. The key question is whether she sees the structure as oppressive or as part of a chosen life. 6. Social image, focus, and public validation dynamics. This last risk is subtle but potent. The social visibility of body art interacts with modern publicity economies. Tattoos amplify visual identity in a networked world that often links to image cultivation. For many women, tattoos are authentic self-expression. For others, tattoos are part of a curatorial identity amplified on social platforms. Where image cultivation becomes central, attention becomes currency. Attention-based economies reconfigure priorities and relationship energy. Consequences when image becomes currency. Prioritization of photogenic experiences over private, mundane relational care. A tendency to perform intimacy publicly more than to build intimacy privately. Sensitivity to public judgment that shapes relationship choices. Relationships become partly curated in service of image. Stoic evaluation and relational choices ask whether her public identity and private commitments align. Performance without depth loses momentum. Seek partners who prize discreet, private care as much as public recognition. A relationship that lives only in images is brittle when tested in real life. Reinforce principles. Our life is not made for applause, it is made for practice. Model the quiet habit of doing what matters away from the public stage. Integration. How to interpret these risks holistically. All 6 risks are not inevitable nor mutually exclusive. They are tendencies observed in certain samples and contextually meaningful. Your job as a Stoic man is not to demonize a person for her choices. It is to perform careful, evidence-based appraisal and make decisions consistent with your commitments and bandwidth. Use these practical steps. Data collection. Notice patterns. Watch over months, not days. One incident is not proof. Multiple incidents indicate pattern. Clarify values. Be brutally honest about what you need. Do you need emotional constancy, predictable partnering, and low external drama? Or do you thrive on variation, intensity, and novelty? Match accordingly. Compassionate directness. Communicate your needs calmly. I appreciate your style. For long-term commitment, I need predictability in X, Y, Z. Stoic clarity is not harshness, it is honesty. Demand mutual growth. If a behavior is problematic but she is willing to engage growthfully, therapy, regulation exercises, consistent action, that is a strong, positive signal. Know your non-negotiables. Children, financial management, emotional regulation. Know which criteria you cannot compromise. Do not rationalize away recurring harm. Stoic mindset for navigating attraction and risk. Stoicism teaches that internal sovereignty must precede external success. A man grounded in Stoic practice does not react to art by fear. He reads the art as information. He neither fetishizes nor fears the tattoo. He interprets the person. Practical Stoic routines. Practice presence over performance. Notice your visceral reactions to intensity and label them. Impression, surprise, preferred action, calm inquiry. Use predetermined standards. Don't decide values under emotional pressure. Write and rehearse boundaries, what you will accept and what you will not. Test gently. If you need evidence of reliability, ask for it through low-risk commitments. See whether she meets them consistently. Cultivate abundance. Men anchored in purpose attract partners who choose them for their present value, not their scarcity. When you have other meaningful attachments, friends, work, physical training, you are less vulnerable to reactive decision-making. When a tattooed woman is the right partner, let us end this with equal weight on the positive. Many tattooed women are extraordinary partners, courageous, creative, loyal, and deeply expressive. Many tattoos symbolize healing, reclamation, and art. The signals above are predictable in some samples. They are not deterministic. Signs a tattooed woman is likely to be a strong, long-term partner. She can articulate the meaning of her tattoos beyond surface pride. She has reflected on their meaning and how they connect to her life story. She demonstrates consistent regulation, steady employment, reliable commitments, calm conflict resolution. She invests in inner work, therapy, discipline, long-term projects. She values private loyalty over public validation. She mirrors your priorities in private settings. She shows adaptability to structure when structure is a mutual decision. If these signs are present, the tattoos are a context, not a problem. Final Stoic payoff. In a world that confuses shock for truth, the Stoic man chooses measured clarity. Tattoos tell stories. Stories can be luminous or wounding. Your job is to read the story and decide whether you can live inside it with peace. If a pattern reveals risk impulsivity, external validation, trauma-driven reactivity, sexual novelty seeking, reactance to structure, or image-driven life choices, you are wise to align your choices with your deepest commitments. Love is admirable. Wisdom is survival. A disciplined life yields better choices. A confused life attracts confusion. This is Stoic Power Codes. You were mentioned at the start because you came here seeking clarity. Now go forward with calm, with discernment, and with that quiet confidence that requires no drama to prove itself. If you value your time and growth, you will let facts inform your heart. And if you choose to love, do it with eyes open and standards intact. If this message landed, and you want more deep breakdowns like this, subscribe to Stoic Power Codes and continue your work. We transform ancient philosophy into modern strength